Howdy, howdy!
Hello!
And welcome to But It Was Aliens, the paranormal comedy podcast where we probe paranormal activity to decide, for the questionable benefit of humanity, whether that activity really was paranormal. My name is Kev in the John, and alongside me in the bathroom with no idea how he got here or what we will be covering today is Mr. Granville Moonwalker. We begin our tale today on September the 27th, 1989. Voronezh is a little place with a name I can't pronounce and which was a little city about 500 kilometers south of Moscow in Russia. This was in the midst of the dissolution of the Soviet Union, which completed around December 1991.
I had, when you went 500 kilometers south of Moscow, and then you went in Russia, I was about to go, what? Not Moscow, Wales, or Moscow, Brazil.
Not those ones.
I was about to be a right prick. I apologise in advance for any prickish behaviour that may arise in this episode.
You should probably do that at the start of every episode. Particularly before you do your introduction. I've watched a few videos on this case and I've seen this pronounced Voronezh, Voronk. So I've basically
Do you
Voronezh.
think it's pronounced differently
Voronezh.
depending on where people are from?
Probably depending on how much research they've put into how it's pronounced.
I would say
They've
the
all
same.
done more than me on that front.
Same way people say Mexico or Mexico.
Mexico. That's just if you're having fun with Mexico though, isn't it?
Or España instead of Spain.
That would be where you're from.
Same with these.
Perhaps.
Or like England. Or England.
Put a GER in it. England.
Yeah.
At a...
Or like...
Do you have anything to say there or are you just being a prick?
Just being a prick.
You did warn.
I did. And I apologise too.
At a park, today, Yuzhny Park in the city, a group of kids were playing football, soccer for our American listeners. This was a park, so there were other folks around. Children, parents, young lovers, piglets, bears, standard Russian park attendees. Me and my partner like little more than to grab a coffee and go for a stroll with Mr. Moxley, our black Labrador and occasional guest podcaster, around a park. But I'll tell you what we don't see every day when we go to a park. As the innocent Soviet children played, the game just kind of gradually came to a halt. This was like a scene from Independence Day as everyone sort of just slowly stopped and started slowly looking up as they came to realise that something was above. A pink glow was breaching the atmosphere just past the park. In this scenario, what are you doing, Mr. Moonwalker?
How bright is the glow?
Fairly. I don't know how to quantify that quite noticeably.
Does it just look like a star or does it look...
Like something breaching the atmosphere.
I would probably run thinking that something was breaching the atmosphere and was about to land. Depending on what direction it was, it looked like it was heading in.
My first thought is probably going to be along the lines of asteroid or something. So I too am bricking it and legging it. Looking for... I don't even know where any bomb shelters or anything are, so I'm just running into the
Home,
horizon.
under the bed.
House falls down, I'm dead.
I suppose if it looks like it's going to head in my direction, I would leg it. If it looks like it's going
It's in every
to go,
direction, I guess. Just putting yourself in that situation. It's above. It's kind of going everywhere.
not necessarily, because at that point it would have to be not... I don't mean this in terms of a solid shape, but if you were to look up, like directly above you, and you saw something coming straight down, it would look very different if you were to look up and saw something that was heading in front of you. Like if a plane was coming straight down, it would look a lot different to a plane going
but
forward.
I guess in my mind, because I've said Independence Day, I'm picturing something huge breaching the atmosphere from space.
Oh, same way like the
the
massive
motherships.
I'm legging it.
Yeah, that's what I've got in my head.
I'm legging it, changing my trousers, and
Taking another 3 spare pairs.
hiding under the bed or somewhere where I can have a good view. Probably going to take some kind of weapon with me. Maybe one of my several kitchen knives.
Frying pan.
Or...
Gong.
No, because if we survive, I don't want to ruin those frying pans. They're fucking quality pans.
But you're fine to ruin a knife.
I can buy another knife.
You can buy a frying pan, surely.
The frying pans are more expensive than the knives.
Depends on your knives. Yours might be.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. My frying pan is more expensive than my knife.
I prepare my food with a samurai sword.
Okay, you would.
I'm taking the frying pan.
Not mine.
Don't want to break the samurai sword.
Kev's going into war. Pick your weapon! Just wanders past all the swords.
Everyone else has got
Just
guns
picks up
and
a
swords.
frying pan.
I've got my trusty pan.
Knowing you, you'd still fucking win.
Complete chance. I'd swing it at someone, miss, and like someone else would fire a shot and ricochet off my pan, hit every single person in the war apart from me, and I'd be like, yeah. Not long after it had been noticed, and notice that I say notice rather than how long it had been there, the pink glow became a deep red ball. This thing was about 3 meters in diameter and was rapid. The ball zigzagged through the sky, travelling in many directions, which means immediately that we know that this couldn't be a meteor. Then suddenly, the ball disappeared. Suddenly, the red ball then reappeared and began hovering in one spot in the sky. That's right, we are seeing different flight capabilities here. Controlled flight. Next, after what could have been 30 seconds or several minutes because the witnesses were watching in awe, unaware as to the passing of time, the ball began moving again. The ball was now heading directly towards the park. As the ball neared, it became less of a ball and more of a flying disc-like shape in the sky.
So it has the ability to change its dimensions, its appearance.
I'm not sure, genuinely, whether it can do that or whether it's just because it was entering the atmosphere at such a height that it didn't look like it was as it got lower, or because it's moving so quick and then it slowed down.
Okay.
Yeah, genuinely don't know.
Yeah, I suppose if a ball's travelling quite fast, it can look a bit elongated.
I mean, if you see a frisbee hocked from a real distance, really, really hard, they look like a ball until they get a bit closer.
What I was going to ask, the fact that it was 3 meters in diameter,
Approx, yeah.
is that 3 meters to the eye
Yes.
in the air?
Yes.
So if you look up, you're seeing 3 meters.
Yes.
So closer, that's going to
fricking
be
knows?
much bigger than 3 meters.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. The balls on the people that stayed and witnessed this are as big as the ball of light that just...
I don't know whether
appeared.
they are, because people tend to fall in two camps when something crazy happens. You get the smart folks who peg it, and then you get the stupid folks who stand there with their mouth gawping, just watching. Like, I can't believe this.
That's true.
Me and you are in the former rather than the latter camp. Legging it
Yeah,
to get the pan.
absolutely.
I don't need to see
Although-
that shit for any longer than noticing it.
Right now, I'm telling you I would leg it. What actually happens in the moment could be very different.
Me and you stood there watching it. I turn around to leg it, run, turn back, see you're still stood there, come back, tap you on the shoulder. Your jaw is just hitting the floor. Zoned out.
I just turn to you and I go, Kev, I'm going to bear hug it.
Look.
Just wants a hug.
There are two main accounts of the event I'm relaying to you, dear probers, and I'll be honest, it is at this specific point that the accounts may vary slightly. As the park onlookers looked on with awe, let's call it what it is, the craft begun lowering. Slowly lowering. It was landing. That means coming to a stop safely on the ground, Granville. The craft landed.
Glad you cleared that up. I was slightly confused.
As the onlookers did what onlookers do and looked on, an opening formed on the craft. With a bright light emanating from the craft, onlookers looking on couldn't be sure as to whether it was a window or door or whether it had even always been there, but they could see the opening now. Through the opening, a figure exited. To the onlookers looking on, the figure appeared to be about 3 meters tall, which is close to 10 feet, so it's pretty unlikely that this figure could be human. The tall figure begun heading towards the group of children playing football. Right. Are you thinking of bear hugging it?
No. There are two images that came to mind when you mentioned the door opening and then the size of the figure. Okay. Number one. Well, it's the Big Show. Wrestler, Big Show, Paul White.
It's famously 7 feet tall,
Yep.
not 10.
And you can't teach that.
Famously 6'9".
And then second one, heading towards the group of children playing football.
Yes.
It's Peter Crouch.
Famously 6'7".
But if you're like 5 or 6 years old, that motherfucker's 10 foot tall. These are kids on a playground
To me,
telling
it's 10
you.
foot tall.
I mean, do we have any adults here that can verify the actual size of the person?
Remember,
or are we taking it from...
this is in the middle of a park with loads of witnesses, and this is documented. I'll get into that later.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Adults, children, bears, pigs, all the things you'd find in Russia.
Okay. I'm assuming that this being is going to go over and try and communicate with the children. Do we have a record of how tall the tallest person to ever live is? I know I've mentioned it before.
I think it's about 8 foot something, yeah.
We are excluding you because you're an anomaly. So a normal sized human, not a Kevin, the grey.
Right. So around 8 feet, give or take.
Okay.
There's never been a 10-foot human.
Amazing. What if they're on stilts?
That never occurred to me. I mean, there's probably a good reason it didn't, which we'll get onto in a second. Just a person in stilts in a craft. Solved. Let's just wrap up. Thank you for listening. Witnesses later described that the creature had a short, wide head and 3 eyes. As Moonwalker is about to see, this was a stocky bastard. The creature was wearing bronze boots. On its chest, there was a disc, and we have no idea whether this was a design or some kind of contraption. The alien was wearing silver overalls, and the alien wasn't alone. The alien was accompanied by a little square robot with arms and legs. The alien and robot stood there silently, staring at the group of children closest to them.
Oh, so we have some images here. We have what looks to be a very tall humanoid with, again, like Kev said, a wide head. Picture, if you will, a mixing bowl turned upside down and placed on your head. That's what the head looks like.
And a camel toe.
and a camel toe. They also have in their hand what looks like a test tube. So I hope they're not going to ask these children for samples.
Ah.
Um,
And there's just a couple of diagrams from different witnesses.
yeah, I'm not sure what they... I think they're just examples of a ship. They all look different. And one of them has a smiley face drawn on.
I'd argue that 3 of them are fairly similar. You've got to remember there's different age ranges here. The smiley face one is probably a smaller child that's done that. But essentially we've all got round crafts with something coming out, and if I think the last diagram, the ball is from further away and the craft is as it got closer.
I was about to argue the fact that I was about to state that I could have been possibly wrong, and the picture with the face on could be a side on view.
Could be.
Whereas the other one with the mini ladder is from head on. So if you're turning that, then they are one and the same.
If an alien lands in front of you, the first rule is not to approach the alien. This is what they teach you on day 1 at the MIB Academy. Day 1. Before you've even had a chance to ask where the toilet is. Do not approach the alien. You need to assess the situation. All of the football playing children obeyed this rule. All except one. One little arsehole thought he was tough, or some kind of child prodigy scientist or something, and this child did indeed approach the alien. The little child was about to find out what happens if you F around, because the alien reached for his hip and Han Solo'd up in this biatch. Yes, the alien opened fire.
God damn.
Effed around and found out, y'all.
The markings. So we have a picture here of the alien opening fire on children with the laser beam from its chest.
Yeah, this is a later mock-up, obviously, by someone who's heard the account, wasn't one of the witnesses.
If you look at the symbol on the craft in the background and on its belt,
Yep.
it looks very similar to gears on a gear stick.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
This is some kind of gear stick alien. His head looks like a gear stick as well.
Maybe you stick your finger in and wiggle it around to change the mode.
Possibly. So we have a three-eyed gear stick alien opening fire on children.
We do.
I mean,
to be clear, child, not children.
okay, yeah, to be fair.
One
yeah,
approached.
Child. We don't know said child's attitude.
I like to think that the child looked at this alien like the child looks at Alan in The Hangover before tasering him.
Yes. And the alien...
Picked the wrong alien to look like that.
The alien has the ability to move through time and space and has seen The Hangover and therefore went back in time and was like,
I recognise this look.
I'm not having this little bitch do this. Open fire first.
Boom. Killed a child.
Oh, you just got that look in my head. Oh, and he kicks the phone out of his hand. Let's not start something. This alien
Yes.
could have felt threatened.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you've landed on the planet. You've walked up to them first. I'm not sure what you expected to happen. So, although I can say he may have felt threatened, you've walked up to them.
Yeah, and we say alien, we don't know whether this suit opens out and it's just a tiny little, like, 5-inch alien inside a massive 10-foot suit.
Good point.
And something's approached it that's massive in comparison to the alien, and instincts kicked in, and the alien is boop,
That
zapped.
we don't know what the kid said.
Yeah.
Could have been talking shit.
Could have walked up and went, your mum.
Yeah.
Boom.
Could have, your mum had the alien. He was like, the fuck you said about my mum?
Boom. Opened fire on a child. The child, when zapped by the alien light beam, vanished. Poof. The other children all wound their necks the hell in and backed up. You do not bring football boots to a ray gun fight. From the accounts I read, what seems to have happened next is that the alien stood there like a bad man, staring at the children for a bit. Nobody made a move, and so the alien and the robot gradually moved back towards the craft. The aliens got in the craft and flew away. As the craft faded out of view, the zapped child suddenly reappeared with no memory of what happened after the zap. I would just add that in the less likely account, this whole alien landing zap bit may not have happened, and the stories converge once more on this next part. Lieutenant Sergei A. Matveyev of the Voronezh police station was minding his damn business at the local police station. Sergei was sat by the window, eating a dough snack, when suddenly the phone rang. Sergei's phone almost never rang unless it was his ex-wife. As Sergei picked up the phone, he was greeted by the following sound. Hello?
So the whole child zap may not have happened at all.
Possibly. There's two differing accounts.
And okay, let's take into account that this child zap happened.
Yep.
Do you think the alien was like, right, I'm looking for a specimen to experiment on, or there's more than one alien in that ship, only one came out?
Mm-hmm. I reckon
this
more
kid
than
got
one.
brave. And he was like, right, you're it.
I reckon the one that came out was like the cannon fodder alien, the workhorse of the group, whereas the rest
Little
they
bitch.
didn't care what happened to him, so they sent that one out, and he opened fire. Didn't have authority to do so, so they called him back in straight away. Oh no! What's he done?
Or
We came in peace, damn it! We came in peace.
zapped him into the ship. They done whatever experiments they needed to do. And then when they left, they were like, let's just fucking zap him back. And they zapped the kid back.
Sergei at the police station.
Also, I think that's Sergey.
I like to think of it Serge, like Beverly Hills Cop. Get the fuck out of here!
Yeah. Sergey.
Sergei.
Just call him Sergey throughout the whole thing.
I have been.
I know. Continue.
Sergei at the police station had himself seen the freaking red ball object in the sky darting about. If a lieutenant isn't honourable and trustworthy, I don't know who is. Sergei got on the phone immediately. Lieutenant Sergei called the Ministry of Internal Affairs of the USSR to explain that when he looked out of the window, he saw a damn body in the sky, and after only a moment on the phone, the ministry agreed to dispatch the internal troops, which were basically the military arm of the police, should the Red Bull return. Next, the authorities investigated, and when they did, all of the witnesses maintained remarkably consistent accounts.
Sergey's got some power.
Sergei. With the authorities legitimately verifying this sighting, it was the turn of the media. The Russian news agency, formerly known as Telegraph Agency of the Soviet Union, or TASS for short, is a Russian state-owned news agency, which means that they only put out things the government were okay with, or wanted, released. On October the 9th, 1989, TASS announced that they had spoken to approximately 12 of the witnesses, mainly children, who all claimed to have seen the flying saucer. Just as with the authorities, the witnesses all remained consistent. We have numerous consistent witnesses. Other newspapers, such as Kultura, also covered the story and repeatedly confirmed that this story was legitimate. That's not all, Mr. Moonwalker, because Dr. Gemrik Silanov of the Voronezh Geophysical Laboratory at the university, one of the predominant universities in central Russia, was able to use biolocation to identify a landing zone. Yes, there is evidence of the landing. To be clear, that's not biolocation, the paranormal phenomenon where something is in two places at once. I said biolocation. The spooks tracked this thing. Tracked to a landing zone.
The child that was zapped, maybe not zapped.
Definitely zapped.
Did anything happen to them after? Any cases of high radiation? Any wounds that magically healed? Any extra arms, fingers, toes, heads?
Not that I
Peni.
saw, no. I reckon if that happened, they'd have kept it under wraps.
Any extra growth, like hair growth?
No.
Did they grow
Nothing.
at an alarming rate more than they did before?
Just no memory of it happening.
Okay. Everybody that was at the park when this happened, are they all alive and well now? And if so, do we have a video where any of them remark on this happening for realsies?
Sort
Actual,
of.
factual.
I couldn't tell you whether they're all alive now, but presumably some of them are.
Presumably, or do we know for definite that some of them are? Were they whacked?
I mean, they could have been whacked. I don't live in Russia. I can't go out and knock on their doors. But this was in the news. There were photos of the witnesses and
Are
whatnot.
there any YouTube videos
There's some Russian videos.
explaining this?
I don't know. I can't speak Russian.
You'd think a good researcher would learn Russian to...
You'd think there's still more evidence to come.
Oh. Maybe there is.
Bearing in mind that we're not summarising yet.
Maybe there isn't. Maybe you've let me down. Not answering my questions.
Maybe you should not ask questions that could spoil the episode.
Are we able to ring Sergey?
You can,
Cool.
if you pronounce his name right. Gran Viley.
Okay, Kevin.
A 26 feet wide patch of ground near South Moscow
That's in Russia.
was found to be scorched. Some believe that this was the UFO's next landing site, though others do believe that the ground was scorched from a fire. At the park, Dr. G. Silanov explained to TASS News at the time that the Soviets detected a clear circle of 20 meters in diameter with 4 to 5 centimeter deep dents, each dent with a diameter of 14 to 16 centimeters. The dents were situated in the 4 points of a rhombus, landing legs. The Soviets found 2 mysterious pieces of rock at the park, and you bet your butt they analysed the rocks, for the Soviet Scientific Commission had ordered an inquiry into the Voronezh UFO. Members of the investigative committee included members of the Voronezh Amateur Section for the Study of Abnormal Phenomena, who had completed a visit to the park. Dr. G. Silanov suggested that the recovered rock was a form of hematite, which is common to Russia, though other sources, including the newspaper TASS, claim extraterrestrial rocks were recovered. Measurements were taken at the park, including 16 radiometric analyses, 19 checks of the ground, 9 tests for microorganisms, and 20 spectrochemical analyses. No clear evidence of aliens was discovered. The park was, however, discovered to have a higher than expected level of radioactive isotope cesium. The vice rector of the University of Voronezh, Igor Saratsev, stated that the presence of radioactive isotopes was insignificant as it didn't prove a landing took place. Evening News correspondent Vladimir Posner sent a news crew to Voronezh, but they couldn't find any witnesses except for the children.
Only the kids. The part where the clear circle of 20 meters
Yep.
was found, did they see that on radar?
I'll clarify that in a little bit.
Okay. I'm going to say it now, just so I don't forget. Because if they didn't, I'm wondering how they found the 20...
The biolocation and how they got there.
Yeah, and how they found the 20 meters in diameter.
Yep.
Although there was landing legs. So you would only either see that in person or from above or from a satellite.
Yep. So I will explain that, yeah. We've got the science today.
Yay!
And I do see also, if you just scroll down a little bit in the research notes, there are some photos of some of the witnesses.
I cannot take that as evidence.
Why not?
It's just pictures of 4 kids.
These were all taken.
There is no newspaper article to say that these children witnessed what they witnessed. I'm just seeing 4 pictures of children.
All right, after the episode's finished, I'll pull up news articles for you. This was in the papers. I
mean, I don't understand why I've got to wait until the episode's finished. I mean, it should be in
Why would I
here.
give you something you can't read?
I can make it out.
Well, funny you mentioned that, because in the next section... We'll get there. But
Just remember, I apologised early.
Did they whack the other witnesses is what I wonder. You whacked them.
The fact that you only have the child witnesses in a park full of other people
Yeah. What happened to the other witnesses?
is extremely questionable.
And on that note, it's time to ask how else we can explain these momentous events. It's interesting that the alien and the robot didn't speak, as that prevents any kind of biased political or military view from being shared, which is quite refreshing. But even so, UFOs and the paranormal may have been opiates for the masses, as has been relayed by people I can't remember the names of. This incident was indeed one of several government media UFO disclosures following the Soviet government's new openness policy of the time. Is it possible that these disclosures were to keep public eyes off what the Soviets were actually up to, or to distract from media reports on difficulties? Do remember that the papers were state-run, so that explanation only goes so far, but we may be seeing something similar in the news of today. Paul Kurtz, the semi-well-known American skeptic from the Skeptical Inquirer magazine, has suggested that the form of biolocation, which remember was not the paranormal bilocation, so the method of bilocation actually used was the paranormal ability of extrasensory perception, aka second sight, aka sixth sense. The Soviets saw dead people. Dr. Silanov claimed that he never made any remark about utilising biolocation as had been reported. So basically what I'm saying is it's not really clear if or how the landing zone was discovered, though we do have test results. The Washington Post didn't buy it and reported on this event in jest. How will you report on this event, Mr. Moonwalker?
What year was this?
We did say...
Was it 89?
Yeah.
Is this around...
September the 27th, specifically.
Cold War era?
Yes, it was at the end of the Soviets' time, so the Soviet was in the process of crumbling.
Was this story put out to make people think that UFOs have been visiting Russia when they haven't?
Potentially. As I kind of said there, to take attention away from the difficulties that the Soviet government were experiencing and the crumbling of their nations, or perhaps to cover up their own military technology they were working on.
Don't look at what's happening in the left hand. Oh, look over here.
Exactly.
Got bright balls in my right hand.
So that would be the skeptical explanation, yes.
We have no adult witnesses here. Now,
that is another interesting... Did they whack the adults, or were there never any adults all along?
or were there adults, but was this some kind of weird production where the adults in the park were like staged and a red light or flare was shone, or flare fired up, or red light shone, and
Yeah,
then
I'm with you.
they literally just had someone come out in a robot suit.
They enacted this event,
if
basically.
you're a bunch of children, you're not going to see that as a play or anything. You're going to think that's real.
Mm-hmm. Potentially,
So-
yeah. Okay,
Yeah. And you have a newspaper clipping for us here.
I do indeed.
Pinhead aliens invade Russia. Scientists confirm landing of shining disk. However, in none of the descriptions we had before was there any mention of pinhead aliens.
Well, we said narrowhead with 3 eyes, didn't we, I think?
You said what? It wasn't narrow. It was wide. They look like the Juggernaut.
Sorry, yeah, you're correct.
So it's not pinhead.
Excuse my terminology. All right.
The Juggernaut, bitch.
Maybe they mean pinhead emotionally because they zapped a child.
I suppose if they stood completely legs together, arms down, with that bowl on their head, could look like a pin. Either or. I apologised early. I'll apologise again.
Just before we
Fuck
conclude,
these pinheads.
just before we conclude, it turns out that this wasn't the only sighting in Voronezh, for there had been a sighting nearly 30 years earlier. In the summer of 1961, again over the city of Voronezh, a giant cigar-shaped spacecraft carrier at least half a mile long was seen in the sky. Half a mile long. This craft dropped down to a height just over 2,000 metres, which is about 1.5 miles, in daylight, and just sort of hung there. Most commercial planes, by the way, fly about 6 to 7 miles high. Let's just make this clear. We are talking about a huge craft that was in width a third of the ground to sky height at which it was flying. Thousands saw it, and there was absolute bedlam. Again, this is Independence Day shit, but annoyingly, the accounts are mostly in Russian, which is why this event isn't a whole episode. Basically, the gigantic UFO began to grow transparent and gradually disappeared. That is today's probe, so I guess what I'm suggesting here is that the 1989 aliens could have been the return of the 1961 aliens.
What I'm suggesting here is that the 1961 aliens are the result of possibly technology in terms of a giant projector. And then they just faded it out.
Like propaganda, basically.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. In summary, we've covered the September 1989 glow and red ball in the sky above a park in the then Soviet Union. The red ball appeared and disappeared, then reappeared, witnessed by many witnesses, including police officers at a nearby station looking out of the window. In some accounts, the craft landed and an alien and a robot got out. The three-eyed alien squared up to a small child and zapped them out of existence. Once the aliens and robot left, the child reappeared. The Soviet authorities investigated and promised a swift response should the ball return, verifying the event through several consistent accounts. Not only that, but the spooks found another landing zone nearby. The landing zone was scientifically analysed, and whilst alien evidence wasn't clear, radiation levels were high. The consistent accounts may have come from a group of children. We wondered whether this was a true case of extraterrestrial visitation, or whether the government of the time may have been using sensational stories to distract from the truth. Mr. Moonwalker, have you taken your fill? Mitchell.
Piggy. Okay, so we have pinhead robots that aren't pinhead robots. Pinhead aliens that aren't aliens, but
Juggernaut.
look like robots and look like Juggernaut, and has a little robot kind of dog. with him.
Basically, yeah.
They didn't talk, didn't do anything.
Might have zapped someone off, might not have.
The fact that that story may or may not have happened, what happened in the account of the child not being zapped? Did the craft land? Did the robot alien get out?
No.
So it never landed. it never got out.
It was seen by lots of people,
So
but
a Red Bull
it may not have landed.
just kind of,
But then a landing site was found elsewhere, not at the park.
okay, all right.
So that landing site wasn't
So
where it landed
the
and zapped the
potential
child.
4 children or potential children.
There were more
in
than
the
4. I
park,
just gave you a screenshot of 4 to demonstrate that there were child witnesses, basically, and gloss over the fact that they were all children.
and the one that got zapped may not have happened at all.
Yeah, basically.
And that's the only kind of thing that relates to this being having any sighting of a form of alien.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. It's not aliens.
So what was it?
Nothing.
Not even the thing
Or
that was
propaganda.
seen in the sky.
Testing of technology, propaganda,
A glow and a darting red.
showing you something in my left hand while distracting you with my right hand while doing something with my left. That.
Mm-hmm.
Trixies.
So are you saying that it was aliens? Do you want to reconsider?
I am saying that it was potentially aliens in terms of that's what they were being showed through technology.
Through Earth technology,
Yes.
it wasn't actually aliens, just depicting aliens.
Yes.
Okay.
So was it real, actual, factual aliens? No.
So this one was at different points very convincing and very unconvincing. Because it happened in Russia, it was hard to find detailed English language sources, though apparently you want those. So, note taken for future reference. You're not going to be able to read anything I provide in the future. I'm just going to scribble on paper and give it to you. But yeah, I was basically at the end of the probe before I found that the only witnesses were pretty much children. I've ruled out the landing in my mind, but I have a sneaky suspicion that something was indeed seen in the sky on the 27th of September 1989. I'm not saying that it was aliens, but whether it was a meteorite or Russian technology being tested, I'm not entirely certain on, but I think those are the 2 most likely scenarios.
Could have been.
Because meteorites can glow, particularly if you see them at the right time of day. It will start with a glow before the meteorite itself becomes visible. And obviously it's burning up in the atmosphere.
Could have been a weather balloon.
And some of the witnesses, from their perspective, they could have been mistaken thinking the ball was darting about, or if it was a meteorite, bits could have been falling off and burning up, hence it looked like it was moving around.
There's also, I suppose if you live in that area, you would know it. But similar to close to us, if you head towards a certain direction around night, you can see a red light in the sky. And that has tripped me out several times as a kid before, like on a dark night, raining, that light has tripped me out. But then when you know what it is, you know it's a tower and it just has a red light at the top of it.
Any final thoughts before we say goodbye, Mr. Moonwalker?
Was Sergey real?
Sergi? Sergey was real, yeah.
Okay.
Never heard of Sergey.
Never heard of Sergey.
Sergey. Yes, Sergey was real. And like I say, this was officially reported, hence why I think there was probably something in the sky.
Okay.
It just wasn't aliens.
Probably tech testing.
Yeah, the the Soviet state media took the opportunity to exploit it and put the attention elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that is a wrap for this episode. My voice literally just cut out. I've been zapped. Thank you for listening to But It Was Aliens. If you have enjoyed this episode and want to support the show to keep on showing, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/But It Was Aliens. There, each month, we release bonus episodes we call Side Probes, and in those episodes we cover the darkest, the dirtiest, the dankest of paranormal events, mysteries and conspiracies. You can access every single Side Probes for less than a cup of coffee at your second favourite cafe. If you have episode suggestions for us, you can share those suggestions across social media, where you can find us everywhere at But It Was Aliens. For example, on Facebook and on the ex-Twitter. Connected to Facebook, there is a secretly public private group called Extraterrestrial Towers. There, you can find like-minded, friendly souls and occasionally memes.
My fucking voice hurts.
Being a member of Extraterrestrial Towers actually gives you protection from the aliens when they invade, because we did a deal with the aliens for our safety, and that deal definitely was not for mine and Mr. Moonwalker's safety specifically in exchange for yours. That is just a vicious rumour. Do not listen. That is it.
Nasty little rumour.
That is it for this episode. So until next time, why do you see stars if you bump your head? The truth is up there. #probe. Wow.